One. Hey everyone, if you love podcasts on martial arts, but today's different, make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe button to the Drew Sperian Show. It's the show that's 80% combat sports and 20% anything else. We're bringing that back. Today's guest is a big one. This guy, I somehow came across his channel in the summertime when I needed a new hobby after battling a massive virus. And I was burned out with a bit of life, so I got back into gaming. And I came across his channel because he plays a certain type of genre called Japanese role-playing games. Very passionate. The guy's knowledgeable. I'm always pumping his tires on Twitter. And I have the one, the only from YouTube, one of ATLUS. I would say he's the specialist of ATLUS JRPGs,
Mhm.
DavidCastRPGs. Welcome to the Drew Experience, David.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. You told me before we started recording that I was the first RPG guest,
Yeah.
so that's an honor. Thank you for having me on. Honestly, it should be fun.
No one can take that away, man. I've been following your content as mentioned since July, and then after I
Appreciate
recovered
it.
from like a massive virus, I was like, okay, I want to play Persona again. So I got into playing Persona 5 Royal, but I had it on my PS4. And then I was like, okay, maybe I should get it on the Switch because I'm always on the go. And
Hmm.
then next thing you know, I started looking up your video when you said, which Persona should I play first, actually? And you said Persona 4 Golden right here, one of the
Yeah.
arguably the best bet it's all the games are amazing, but I really, guys, when David says this is the one you should start with, if you
Yeah.
can get your hands on it, start with this one because 5 is overwhelming.
I still stand by that. I think 4 and 4 Golden are, especially when you first start, right? The prologue is kind of it feels natural. It feels like
Yeah.
you're right in. P5 has a great tutorial, but it drags on a little bit. And I've seen people get burned. Like even I don't know if you've heard of him, but King Narukami, he's my good friend. He's like my co-host on my podcast, and he
Yeah.
does YouTube as well. And he started his RPG journey with Persona 5 specifically,
Mhm.
and he dropped it. And now he's doing ATLUS content, right? So he dropped it at first because it was too much, overwhelming at first. I really do think 4 is the better place to start with. I still prefer 5 over 4, though, in general as a
Mhm.
game. But to start with, yeah, Golden. I still stand by that. And I know it's the video you're talking about is kind of old, but
Yeah.
yes, it's still my recommendation as of today. So I'm glad it worked for you. So it's always cool to have like newcomers in these games because they're really awesome.
It's a great community, honestly. Like there's people like yourself, there's King Narukami, there's David
Mm-hmm.
Vincent,
Yep.
Food for Dogs. There's like so many of these great YouTubers and a community. And I think
Mm-hmm.
JRPGs is such a great genre. It's not for everybody.
Yep.
That's what I love about gaming. Some like first person shooters, some like puzzles. Me, people like myself and you, we love JRPGs.
Yes, sir. It's a genre too. Like if you told me you want to, start and try and have more guests and all of that, everyone knows everyone in this community. It's a big world, but it's small. It's kind of a niche at the same time. All these people that you mentioned, I know who they are. We follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a very small circle, and we work together. Like we were to try and help each other. I lent gameplay to other content creators for their own videos at some
Mhm.
point, talked to them, gave them info about embargoes and stuff. I sold a game to another content creator last week, so it's really, yeah, cool community. So you're gonna have a good time if you stick to
Uh,
it. Yeah, it's
yeah, and
cool.
how did you get started on JRPGs? I want to hear how you got started because everyone has their story. I could give mine, but I want to hear from you because like you've like built such a great community and channel. So where did it all start for you?
If you have to ask where it all started, hey, I was very young, but like early 2000s.
Mhm.
Bought a copy of my parents bought me just a random cartridge of Pokemon Gold on Game Boy Color. That's
Mhm.
probably where it all started. Like cliche answer, but that's the one for me. So I played Pokemon, fell in
Yeah.
love with it. Obviously, like most kids, I'm not into the franchise anymore. Sadly, I really tried to keep it up and like these games, but these modern titles,
Uh,
I can't anymore. Sadly,
uh,
but I have a soft spot for them because
mhm.
of playing them when I was very young. Then I played a lot of other stuff that isn't RPGs. I went back to RPGs after playing Persona 3, which is
Mhm.
where like I started to, want to play more. Went back to Persona 1 and 2, played 4, then was anticipating 5. And when 5 came out, it really like just sparked the fire again for me. Like I was like, oh my god, just RPGs. And I think I can safely say that ever since Persona 5 released on PlayStation 4, I mainly play Japanese role-playing games. I don't do much else in terms of gaming. Like I have my little franchises here and there. Like I'm going to play the new Zeldas. I do that all the time, even though most of them aren't RPGs. But yeah, that would pretty much it. Just Pokemon and then ATLUS stuff. That's how it happened. How about you?
For me, that's a great question. So kind of similar to you. I mean, it started with Pokemon Red. I think we're the same age. I mean, I'm gonna be 33 in a month, so I'm an early 90s baby, and we had like Pokemon for us. And then when the Game Boy Advance came out, there were games like Golden Sun, and
Oh, yes.
Robopon. Okay, you're gonna know this, but I got Robopon 2 at the time, and that's an Atlas game that not many people know of. Like, I
Yep.
mean, and it's like a Pokemon ripoff. And then my mom, rest in peace, lovely woman. She passed away 2 years ago, but she always bought me my Japanese role playing games. She was like, "Look," she goes, "I know you love it because it got me that story." And Golden Sun: The Lost Age was what really made me love.
Really nice.
Yeah, like I like playing as Felix. I don't like playing as like a good guy. Like I liked it from the perspective of the anti-hero.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
well, I don't know if you know, but I played Golden Sun has always been very intriguing to me, but I
Yeah.
played it for the first time last year.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
Last year. Yep, I played it for the first time last year. And I reviewed it on the channel. I figured it would be interesting to like have a newcomer's perspective to it. I played it beforehand, but I completely beat it last year, and I have never played the sequel. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can play as Felix in the first game.
No, it's Isaac in the first game, Felix in the
Exactly.
second game, and then as
Okay, cool.
Isaac's son in the third game, which I have. And the third one we don't talk
Okay.
about. It was terrible. It was
That's
like,
what most people say. Yeah, I own all of them. I own all
yeah.
three games. I played the first one. I
Hmm.
loved it enough to go back to the Lost Age for sure. So
Hmm.
I own the cartridge, so I am going to play that at some point. It's on the backlog. RPGs
Yeah.
backlog is huge,
Yeah.
sadly. And again, not a lot of time to play games anymore. But
No,
hey,
same.
at some point I'll make it work because I liked the first game enough for sure.
I would also say too, Fire Emblem when it first came out
Oh
was like
yeah.
a big one. I played that game 5 times. I beat it, and even
Wow.
Shin Megami
Damn me,
Tensei.
kid.
I got the light version. I had the light version, and that's arguably
Ooh.
the better one for the story. And the dark version is like more like side quest themed. But it's like that's a game like if you're a Shin Megami Tensei collector, get on it now because those games are selling for like five hundred
They're
dollars.
yeah, they're insanely expensive. See, I don't own both Golden Sun games I have.
Yeah,
I I don't like to collect cards only. I can't
yeah,
do it. I need complete inbox. So I have both Golden Sun games
yeah.
complete inbox. Demi Kids, I don't have them.
Mhm.
But fun fact, those are the only are they? I think so. I think those are the only Megaton games that I just dislike. I can't. I tried to play them. I tried to play one of them.
Right,
I don't remember which one.
right.
I played it for multiple hours and I couldn't. I thought they were very boring, but I want to go back to them at some point. But for now, they're not on
They
top of the backlog though.
they
So
didn't age very well at all. At the time,
yeah.
there was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's like a Pokemon
Mhm.
ripoff because Atlas was always trying to compete with Pokemon. And I agree with you totally what you said about the modern Pokemon titles. Like, I got back into Pokemon in 2022 with Sword version. And then I started wanting to
Mhm.
play, and I wanted to play Black and White and Black and White 2, which I did. But for me, I feel the generations for Pokemon, it's a hot take. I think after Gen 5, it just kind of like because I played Pokemon XY and I was like, I like this game is like not made for my age.
It makes sense. I mean, that might be it. What you just said, our age. I mean, I played again. The first one that I got is Gold, and
Hmm.
then I just got all of them afterwards. So I got Fire Red and Leaf Green, which is how I experienced Gen 1 at
Yeah.
first. Then I got I don't remember which one, but I got either Ruby or Sapphire, Emerald. Loved Gen 4. Like that was my peak. I was into Pokemon so much with these games. So Gen 4 bought all three of them.
Yeah.
Art Gold and Soul Silver are
Hard.
masterpieces,
Yeah. S tier. S tier.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're probably the best games in the franchise for me. Gen 5 I thought was uninteresting. I know that's controversial.
Mm.
Most Pokemon fans like Gen 5 so much, but that's when I started to drop out.
Yeah.
X and Y looked better, which is why it kind of hooked me. Mega Evolution and stuff that hooked me a little bit. but then everything else afterwards, I just couldn't. I couldn't.
Yeah, that's very normal. It happened to me with Fire Emblem because I got into JRPGs, I said,
Ooh.
when with like, so from 2001 to 2005, I was always playing JRPGs. I was into anime, then I got into sports because obviously you have that phase where you go into phases, and people were
Mm-hmm.
like, and I was like, the people I was friends with were like, "Dude, why would you play these games? Like, this is so weird. Like, those
Mm-hmm.
kids are the weird kids." So you start trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And it was a big mistake. I should have just still liked it because I loved hockey at the time. And,
Right.
since I'm on the spectrum, the problem when you're on the spectrum too is you get obsessed with one thing and you focus on that one thing. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
if you have friends who are like that. So that's
Oh
what
yeah.
happened. But then I got back into JRPGs and I was like, man, I should have never got out of it. And I started playing everything again, even like a Super Robot Wars or Super Robot Tyson OG
Niche
that's on
stuff.
the game.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
That's niche
Oh, yeah.
games. Yeah.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
more than Megaton.
Oh yeah, I was like, I have the first two on Game Boy Advance in box cartridge, and I had to put those down. I had to I really kept like having to restart and Fire Emblem. I got kind of tired with Fire Emblem after Fates, like the Birthright and the
Fair.
I didn't
Those
like that
games
one.
aren't. Yeah, they're. I wouldn't say I dislike them, but they're
Mhm.
kind of mid for Fire Emblem for sure. Which I am intrigued to play Engage. I don't know if you've played. If you've played it, it's
No,
on the backlog.
I haven't. It's in my backlog too, actually.
I
But
think it looks really cool. I want to get around to playing it. It released at a bad time, and I never went back to it. But see, this game is like it's high up on the pile for sure. I want to go back to it soon if possible. Like once I'm done with Metaphor, I'm gonna play Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. Like I'm
Mhm.
extremely excited for that. After that, if there's not much new, it's gonna come around that time, like early 2025. There isn't much for me for now, so I'm really hoping to be able to go back to games like this. I want to go back to Engage. I want to go back to Rebirth
Mhm.
because I couldn't make it work this year. I didn't have time for Final Fantasy Rebirth. And I like the remake enough to go back and play Rebirth. But for now, that is also on the backlog. So a big game for this year too.
Yeah, Metaphor is killing it. Like I've seen
Oh
it
yeah.
on Twitter. Everyone's like, it's like game of the year, game of the year, game of the year, game
Oh
of the
yeah.
year, game of the year. Is it really that good, Metaphor?
It
Or?
is. Yes, it is. Now I played when I don't know if you saw, but I had the chance to preview Metaphor early on. So ATLUS flew me to New York City to play the game hands on and speak with the devs and stuff. Best experience that I've had on YouTube for sure. That was absolutely crazy, and I praised the game hardcore in my preview. I was like, "Hey, you guys, you don't realize how special this is." And I've been playing it for a little bit. I'm at about 15 hours in or so.
Oh wow.
It's really awesome. It's really good. It's that good for sure. Hey, you like Persona, you like Mainline, you're gonna like Metaphor for sure because it's the best. It's the best of both, basically.
Let me ask you this about Persona because obviously it's under the Megaten umbrella. Why do you think some people struggle with going from Persona to Megaten? Because when SMT5 came out, the IGN reviewer kept comparing it to Persona, and I was like, dude, this is not the same game. Yes, they have the same demons, but you gotta stop comparing the two.
It started as Shin Megami Tensei Persona, which is
Mhm.
probably the one of the reasons for sure. You mentioned the second one, which is that they share demons, they share monsters, they share personas and shadows.
Mhm.
So that is also another big fact. They share a lot of gameplay stuff as well. Mostly the combat system. The once more system is it's the press turn system. It's very similar. So for those reasons, I think it's unavoidable for reviewers to compare them. But the biggest reason is probably they get clicks. Like that IGN article that you're talking about, it did well for IGN for sure. Everyone talked about it. Like Persona 5 Without the Heart was the name. Like I remember it because everyone talked about that article. So I think those are mainly the reasons why. And it's not gonna change. These franchises are too similar. And have you seen the discourse around Metaphor?
No, I haven't.
It's well, it's in that sense, it's kind of worse. Like everyone compares Metaphor to Persona, like most
Oh,
people do. And it's in my I made a video last Friday called "Hey, Metaphor Refantasio stands proudly next
on
to
its own.
Persona and SMT, exactly on its own, but it clearly takes a lot from
Mhm.
both. That's for sure. But if you're a fan of both, it's a given that you're gonna like Metaphor. So when ATLUS revealed what was called, well, Metaphor was previously called Project Refantasy, it was clearly to me like, hey, I just hope it's completely unique in the sense that there's no demons from Megaton and brand new characters and all of that, but just give me the press turn system, give me the stuff that I like from these games, and that's what Metaphor is. So I'm simping over this game. It's really,
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, another similar game that I played to that I forgot to mention in my journey of JRPGs was
Mm-hmm.
Star Ocean Till the End of Time on PS2. That gets lost
Interesting.
in time, pun intended.
Yeah.
That was a very uh, eye-opening game for me because
Mm.
it was kind of a precursor to what the new Final Fantasy VII is because it wasn't press turn. It was kind of like go all over the place, real time in a sense before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I liked about Star Ocean, and it kind of brought that Persona 3 press turn system. If you think of it now, for so 2004, it was very ahead of its
Interesting.
time. And Star Ocean doesn't get enough love. Is it just because you think it's a very niche game, or there's just
I am not aware of much about Star. I know I'm very well
okay?
aware of what it is, but
Yeah.
I've not played any of the games to completion. So
Uh-huh.
I don't have a lot of knowledge of these games. Like what you're telling me about the system being similar to Preston, I didn't know. So that makes it interesting to me though, because in my opinion, the pure Preston that you have in SMT3 is or 5, it's peak combat system. Like it's my favorite combat system of all time at this point.
Oh man, the Five Vengeance. Thank God you recommended 5V first, because what I did was over the summer, because at my work we had some Amazon gift cards. We had them unused. So I was like, I'll buy SMT4, and I was like, and some said, yeah, SMT4 is a great game. It's really good. Man, David, thank God that you said, I'm telling you right now, start with this one
Oh
first
yeah.
because this is SMT5 Vengeance. Guys, he knows what he's talking about. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you because number 4 is not, it's not beginner friendly.
At least it's harder. If you go back to SMT4 after playing Vengeance, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You will be fine because you now have a very good understanding of the press turn system. It's not hand-holdy at all early on SMT4 either. Like we talked about P5, how P5 teaches you how to breathe at this point. It's like it tells you everything. It's overwhelming, even for someone who knows what he's doing in these games, you know. Metaphor kind of heavy in the tutorial early on too, in my opinion. It's not P5 or anything, but it drags on a little bit in that sense. But hey,
Yeah, no, it's understandable. Like and when it comes to Persona 5, I mean for me, I loved it too, because that was like my introduction. And also too, I went to Japan last year. So the fact that they put it in real
nice.
like Tokyo, I was like, oh my God, like I
It
know
hit.
this I see this line. I've been there because like I do karate. So when you go there, it's like you get the tournament. So we went to
Oh,
Osaka.
for a tournament,
Hmm.
that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't compete. I was just there to cover the Team Canada, because I do like the style. That's the kanji here. It's like Kyokushin. That's the style, and it was really fun. So we did
Nice.
like Osaka and then Tokyo, and the fact that they did Persona 5 in Tokyo, I was like, oh, Akihabara, but they did it dirty. They only made it like one street. Akihabara is much
Right.
bigger.
Of course.
Um, they did Ikebukuro, which was pretty cool. The JR lines. I'm really hoping Persona 6 is in Osaka. I don't know what you know, but I'm like.
I don't know. Yeah, I
What,
have no idea. Sadly, you'll see some of these areas in SMT4 too. Like,
Well, Inaba is based off of Shizuoku, I think. It's Inaba, like I beat Persona 4 and I beat
mm-hmm.
Persona 5. Persona 4 is more of like a relaxed
Oh yeah,
style. It was more
it's
relaxed.
it depends on in which sense. Like in a vibe and tone sense, yes, for sure. The music though is way more like there's a vibe and it hits a little more than P5, which is more jazzy and relaxing style, you know, which again prefer P5 in that sense. But
Mhm.
yeah, 4 is really good. And I want to go back to 4 at some point. Now that I played Reload or
Mhm.
Persona 3 Reload early on this year.
Mhm.
So I'm good with Persona 3 for a while now. But B5R I replayed when it dropped on Switch. Was it
Yeah.
last year? Yes,
Oh,
early
yeah,
last
two
year or
years. It was 2 years
late
ago. It's gonna be.
2022. Yeah,
Yeah.
late 2022. I got a review copy for that, and I remember when I first booted that up, I was like, "Wow, finally!" Like they're 5 years late. It should have been there day one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's better now than ever because, as you said, these games are so good portably, and my preferred platform is Switch by
Yeah.
far because of the hybrid nature of the
Mhm.
system. So if I can play a game, if there's an option to play a game on Switch, that's where I'll play it, except if it's really rough or something.
Right. Did you? And so when I know I told you what I thought like between the two Persona 4 and 5. So here's what I did. I got up to like the last dungeon in Persona 5R without giving any spoilers, because there's like the true ending and then there's like the classic ending or like the canon ending of if you don't fulfill certain requests. And then I was like, you know what? I'm so annoyed with like trying to fuse this demon. I'm just gonna put it down and play Persona 4 to change it up. And then I was like,
Mhm.
oh wow. I'm like Persona 4 is much easier, and it's like it's not as much bad with all this stuff to do that drags on. The tutorial's a bit long, but I gotta
Mhm.
say overall gameplay wise and like what there is to do, Persona 5 edges Persona 4. When it comes
Mhm.
to characters and story, I gotta give
It's
number
debatable.
4. It's debatable. Yeah, like you
Mhm.
can't go wrong, but there's some people on the internet that are gonna say you're wrong, this is why, and it's like, and that's it's good to have those debates, but I'm sticking by
Mhm.
my argument. I'm sorry. I liked number 4's characters more than number 5 because number 4 um you felt they were all connected. Whereas number 5, there's times you just felt like they're all ripping each other. They're all, and it's like, okay, are they really friends or are they just kind of like against each other? And I love Teddy over Morgana. Controversial take.
Mhm. I can see it. Now, for me, that's an interesting topic. I think I definitely prefer five
Uh,
story. Individual characters, I probably prefer five too, but as a team, like definitely the investigation team over the Phantom Thieves for sure. Now that is yeah for sure. The social links in four I think are better than in five.
mhm.
Yeah, five was I had it's just it came out at the right time for me. It's a special game. It
Yeah.
really pushed me to start YouTube. I
Mhm.
started a month or two before Royal came out. That's when I
Yeah.
started to do YouTube. So it has a special spot. So I might be biased.
How did you get, and how did Atlas like start like making you kind of their spokesperson or ambassador? Like how did that happen? That's a big deal, man.
Yeah, it's a big mess. I'll be honest. Like it really changed from when I first started to now. Now in this industry, what you have to do is have contacts. So try and speak to as many people as
Yeah.
possible, get on their good sides and stuff. So for Atlas, it's I have this presence on YouTube that they noticed that I was lucky enough for them to notice. I was able to speak with a PR person at Atlas late 2020 because I
Okay.
got a review copy. The first review copy that I got from Atlas was for Nocturne HD on Switch.
That's SMT3, by the way, right? Just to make
SMT3,
sure. Okay.
exactly. Yep, correct. So I got that. If they used to give codes to content creators like myself a month and a half early before the game came
Oh,
out. That
okay.
is huge. So I had the time to completely beat it and do the full-on review at launch. That was very special. Nowadays it's different because now they work with third-party firms, and
Mhm.
they just what Atlas and Sega does is they send a list of contacts to this third party, and this third party reaches out to us. So
Oh.
if you are not on the list right now, sadly, I don't know what you can do to get on the list, because some of my friends used to have contacts at PR at Atlas and they used to receive, PR boxes and review codes and stuff like that. But nowadays they don't get them anymore. I am very fortunate and very lucky to still be able to receive all that stuff from them because I'm on some sort of list. But yeah, it's a mess. It really
It,
is.
it, it can, because you got to really maintain those relations. It's a relationship business. It's like what I do with my content. It's like sometimes people are like, "Can you get this guy on your show?" Like in karate or like say MMA, and it's like, guys, it's like, stop. I can't do these favors. It's like I'm doing this because I love it. Like for example, like I get like at least I want to say a million, but like about 50 times I've been asked, "Are you gonna get George St. Pierre on your show?" And I'm like, I'd like to, but it's like, do you want him on my show or do I want him on my show? So I know what you
Yeah.
mean when you have those friends and they're like, David, can you do like a favor? Gets messy. I see what you mean, right?
Yeah, plus it's even if I tried to just ask my PR person like, "Hey, how do you get on this list that I'm fortunate enough to be on?" And they're like, "That's how I got the info. Like, hey, Sega gave us a list. You're on that list. We don't know
It was
much
like, but
else."
it's a bit of luck. It's a kind of a bit of luck and timing,
Honestly,
honestly.
at this point, for yes, if you're on their good side, good. And there's some of my friends, they're followed by the official account and stuff. They talk to some of the employees at Atlas and they're still not on the
Mhm.
list. So it's very confusing at this point.
Oh.
um yeah, it's just a big mess. And even I tried to give my contact info to someone else, well, the contact of the person that I have at this
Mhm.
specific third party, to a friend, and they just never replied because that person isn't on the list. So
Damn, it's pretty crazy, but it's awesome
Yeah.
that you get to do this and like you got flown out to New York. So did you get to like meet like some of the other developers like that do
Yeah.
the other games too? And
Yes, there were four big developers that came from Atlas Japan directly. The rest
mhm,
was just California employees for
mhm,
Atlas West that were there, and the third party, which is called GameSide.
mhm.
Those were the people that were there. But the big three that are working on Metaphor weren't there in
Okay.
NYC, sadly. So Hoshino, Soejima, and Meguro, they weren't there.
Oh, dude, that would have been so awesome if you met Meguro.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say for the record, another hot take. I've watched a ton of anime growing up. I played a lot of these like Japanese games, fighting games like Tekken, and I used to say Tekken's composer is like Chef's Kiss. No,
Oh yeah.
Meguro, I'm sorry, but the second to last dungeon in Persona 4, you know what I'm talking about without giving spoilers. If you max out that social link for Golden, that like dungeon was like, man, like the way Meguro like makes music is
Mhm.
insane. And yeah.
Yeah, plus Ryota Kazuka, which he's behind SMT5 and SMT4 soundtrack, might be better than Meguro, if I'm being honest. So you're in for a treat with what's to
Oh,
come.
the Nua battle, dude, the Nua battle OST is like I kept replaying it
Yep.
constantly. Like I and everyone says I'm sorry, that's the best boss theme in any game. The Nua battle theme should be, I'm gonna say it right here, should be every boss theme in a game, whether it's Square Enix or Atlas. Because I'm not a Final Fantasy guy. I have played Final Fantasy, but I'll be honest with you, I never played number 7. I got a bit into number 10, but I got lost and I was like, well, forget it. And then I played the classic ones like number 1, 2 on the
Oh yeah.
Game Boy Advance. Number 3, my mom bought on for me on my 15th birthday because I thought it was like the one with Celis and Terra and like Loki, and I was like, oh no, that's not this one. And then she bought me number 4, and number 4 is like my all-time favorite.
Nice. Cool. I think it's slept on for sure. Now I my story with FF is kind of odd. Now I don't consider myself this huge fan anymore
Mm-hmm.
because I strongly prefer the classic games. Like 16, I have not played. I tried the demo, hoping I
Mm-hmm.
would like it, and I dropped it. I was like, man, this is Devil May Cry. If I want to play Devil May Cry, I'll play Devil May Cry. This is not
Yeah.
Final Fantasy to me. 15, I thought was okay.
Mm-hmm.
14 is an MMO, so not for me. 13 was very, very, it was ass in my opinion. Like it was just not for me at all. 12 again, online game. Man, 10 was really good. 9 and 8 I have not played. 7 was really good, and then all the classics like 1 to 6 are very, 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 very good. Again, soft spot for 4 and 6. I think they're really, really solid. So
Same. I really identify with the characters. Like, I think what makes JRPG such an amazing genre is yes, it's fantasy and it gets you away from reality, but you really feel like you
in
identify
this
with these
game, you know.
characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can all identify with Cecil. We can all identify with Kane. We can all identify with I identify with Edge as someone who's like very like kind of like impulsive, but he's got a good heart and he's and like and you know he's like terrible like with like women in terms of like trying to hit on poor Rydia and Rydia's
Mm-hmm.
like pushing him away. About that way, but it's like Edge is like the kind of guy that means well, but he just sometimes doesn't
Right.
know how to read the room a little. Like, is there a character like in FF like who are some characters that really like grew on you that like you really? It's a tough one. I'm gonna ask
Probably
tough questions here.
probably Tidus in FF10, like the protagonist. I think
Okay.
he at first is kind of this goofball and hard to take him seriously, but he really grew on me. So I think that is a favorite of mine for sure.
Okay. That
Yeah,
makes sense. For me, Orin is my favorite because he's kind of like that quiet,
cool.
awkward guy. And it's like, and I have a friend that's kind of like Orin, and it's like, I was like, dude, I'm like, you should be Orin for Halloween for cosplay. And he's like, what's an Orin? And I showed him, he goes, yeah, he goes, it's me. He's kind of like the Batman of Final Fantasy.
Hmm. I think one game that is not mentioned enough is the original Dissidia on PSP. I don't know if you've played that, but I am not a
No.
fighting game guy. When that came out with how good it looked on a portable system, that game blew me away when I was younger. That and Crisis Core on PSP too. Two good games.
I
It's
don't
the
remember Chris.
FF7. It's an FF7 game. Final
Oh, yes.
Fantasy 7 Crisis Core.
I remember that's like one like the rumors of the remake were like starting to really pop off with the PS3. I remember. Like I
Yep.
remember when I was in high school, everyone's like, they're remaking of FF7, buy a
Yep.
PS3 now.
Plus
And like
the tech demo that they did. on
Yeah.
PS3. That didn't help.
I don't know why they pushed it for so long though. It's just because of like, having to like get all the developers because it's
Probably it's kind of hard to remake a game that
mhm,
people will say is top 3 of all time, which
mhm.
is FF7's case. So I think that's probably why. And hey, the remake came out in 2020. Very controversial game. Very controversial. If Nintendo decides to remake Ocarina of Time at some point, it's going to be the exact same thing's going to happen. It's going to be very controversial, especially if you change the story like they're doing with the FF7 remake. So
Yeah, that's not gonna end well. When it comes to Megaten, is there who is your favorite demons to use? Like aesthetic. Well, not to
ooh,
use, but I'm gonna ask you like this. Aesthetic wise, your favorite, and then to use like in a playthrough. Like
a hard question because I don't stick with specific demons. I
mhm,
change a lot in
mhm,
most of my playthroughs. But if I had to name a few that I like, I mean, Shiva is always a good one just
yeah.
because of how imposing and powerful the demon is. All the Jack brothers, Jack Frost, Barrel
Black
Lantern,
Frost.
they're all good. Yep, for sure. I have a soft spot for what's the how do you 1 second. I always forget the name. I know he's in SMT 5, but Belder is a favorite of mine. Now he's in SMT5, but he's from Devil Survivor, and I just have this soft spot for him because there's this one fight in Devil Survivor that destroyed me, like completely destroyed me, and I have this good memory of this fight, and I like the design. So yeah, those are a few of my favorites, but Beelzebub for sure. Angel is a cool one that you get early
Yeah.
on that I like a little bit. Um, yeah, those would be mine for now on the top of my head, right?
I know yeah, I get it. For me, I would have to say to for aesthetic wise, it's Rakshasa. Man, I always
Mm-hmm.
struggle with his name. That
Hard to
that
say.
yeah, it's hard, but he was amazing, especially in my P4 playthrough because I got him like right at the Kanji bathhouse, and I was like, yo, and like I needed a physical hitter for that, so Rakshasa helped. I've always loved Oze in Persona 5 really helped me get through the late game. Because like he's just a speed demon and
Yep.
he just hits like and I used him so much. For the late game, I would say my favorite to use was have to have been Beelzebub. No, it was one of the angels. It was Metatron. Metatron I use a
Mm.
lot. That's a powerful one. And
In which game?
P5R, I
Five.
used
Okay.
Metatron and
Okay.
Scatch. It's like the witch that sits cross-legged and she has like a top
Yes.
hat.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like when I told them people that were like she was in my party, my friend who beat the game, like, oh yeah, I used her. She killed it for me. So Scatch is like if you want like a powerful like buffer and debuffer,
Mm-hmm.
go with her. But yeah, no, the Frost brothers can't go wrong with. But yeah, Rakshasa, Oze, and I would say even Succubus I like. Succubus's aesthetics in
Yeah.
P5 I really liked, and I liked using her versus Kamishita. Like she really helped
Mm-hmm.
in that fight. So
Yeah.
there's so much, man. It's like Pokemon. Like everyone, I tell people like, don't if you're tired of Pokemon, go play SMT. You're not gonna regret it.
Yeah. It's better in a gameplay sense, at least in my opinion. I have terrible memory, so it's hard for me to remember all the names like
Yeah,
this. But when I hear the name, I get the image in my
yeah.
mind for sure. So. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to protagonists in SMT, did you prefer threes, Flynn in number 4, or the Nahubino in number 5? Like, who's your favorite?
Definitely Flynn in 4. I think has the most personality. Demi Fiend is legendary for sure, and then Nahobino's design is really solid. So they're all very, very good. I like Aleph in 2 as
Mhm.
well. The first game protagonist is kind of unmemorable,
You played actually
being
the
is
first two SMT games?
I've played the first one, not the second one.
Okay.
So the second one is very high on my backlog too. These games are kind of hard to go back to,
Yeah.
honestly, even as a huge fan of the franchise. But yeah, they're all really solid. Flynn is definitely my favorite though.
Mhm. I have a feeling I'm gonna like him a lot once I get to number 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Nahubino. What I loved about number 5 is I'm not sure if you're a guy that like watches a lot of sci-fi movies, but I loved how like number 5 took like a page out of Terminator's book when like
Mm,
Aogami comes and he's like, "Take my hand if you want to live." It's like that is
yeah.
so out of Terminator. Like Like I sent it to my friend because I'm trying to get him into SMT now, and I was like, "You got to play this game." And he's like, "Man," he goes, "They really took a page out of the Terminator book there."
I'm more of a horror movie guy, I'll be honest. I
Oh,
don't I don't
really?
listen to a lot. I don't watch a lot of movies, but horror movies are my thing for sure.
Freddy Krueger or Jason?
Michael Myers.
Okay, so Halloween. Okay, not bad, not
Yeah,
bad. I'm a
for
Freddy Krueger
sure. But
guy.
if I had to choose, definitely Freddy out of these two for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Wes Craven fan. Yeah.
Yeah, rest in peace, Wes. I think Wes Craven
Mm-hmm.
passed away. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's just tragic. I mean, I know they were trying to remake some of the Elm Street films, and to me,
Mm-hmm.
Elm Street ends from. I know we're going all over the place here, but Elm Street for me, it's the first three, and then I don't count the last two. I was like, I think they're just money grabs, basically. It's because
Yeah, especially the reboot that they did in like 2010-ish.
yeah.
It's really mid. The Friday the 13th reboot is really good though.
Mhm.
It's really good. We're kind of on team though. Like it's 15 or so days away from Halloween as of the time of recording.
I
So,
know, isn't it, dude? This year passed by so fast,
oh
and
yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
it's like so many changes happened this year too. But it's been amazing, and honestly, like it's been so good to come back to gaming, especially JRPGs, and now as an adult,
Adult.
understand the themes, understand
Yep.
the why you get into these games, why this is a great genre to get into. And do you feel like with SMT and Persona's popularity, do you feel the genre is only going to get bigger, or where do you feel JRPGs are headed in the future?
I think it's only going to get bigger. For Atlas right now, it's it's crazy. Like this year, they dropped Persona 3 Reload, which was their fastest selling game at that
Mhm.
point. Massive success, 89 on Metacritic or so. Then, obviously, they published Unicorn Overlord for Vanillaware, which
Mhm.
was in March. Absolutely amazing game for Vanillaware. Again, sold very well for a game like this. Selling 1 million is extremely impressive, and they did. SMT5 Vengeance brought so many new fans to mainline, and I'm definitely not I consider myself an older Atlas fan, but I'm not a gatekeeper at all. I want people to play these games. I want them to join the community and make it bigger. And obviously on the Persona side of things, same thing. Like Persona 3 Reload again did really well. Freaking Metaphor ReFantasio is a new IP. It sold 1 mil in under 24 hours. It sold a
That's
million copies. That's insane for an Atlas game, and it's insane for a new IP in general, especially for a JRPG. That's insane. So at this point, I think the genre is healthy. Square Enix is very hit and miss, and I know they used to be this pillar. I'm saying they used to be because at this point, I think Atlas is going to surpass Square for sure. I think it's unavoidable because they have the quality and now they have the quantity that both Square doesn't seem to be able to have anymore, with Final Fantasy struggling in terms of sales and critically. Dragon Quest is still very strong though, especially in Japan. Like Dragon Quest is extremely big in Japan. Dragon Quest 11 is huge. So very healthy JRPG at the
I,
moment for sure.
I would agree with that there because I feel like Square. I think one of the things they did was they took all their. They're still in Japan, obviously, but they put everything
Oh
in the
yeah.
US now, and I think you need to have that mix of the two cultures in order to make a successful JRPG. And that's where I think Atlas's model is done so well. Where yes, we're in Japan still, but we're gonna keep it somewhat small in California. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Maybe it's bigger in California too. But it seems Atlas has this model where we keep the big boy, we keep our IPs in Japan, but we have a good team in the West that can make the changes in order to
The
bring to the
localization
modern.
team is really good nowadays at Atlas, and it used to be a big problem not so long ago, right? Now it's a
Really.
given. Every Sega game comes out worldwide, global launch. Uh, Persona 5 Strikers is the last game that I remember being a pain. Like it came out a year or so
Mhm.
before in Japan. So in Japan, it came out, I think, in 2019, and we got it in 2021, like early 2021, something along
Okay.
those lines. So that waiting period was awful, and I was still covering Atlas on YouTube by that point, and I was always making these news updates on what's going on with Persona 5 Scramble was how it was called in Japan,
Mhm.
where it was the English version and all of that. Nowadays, it's coming out on the same day worldwide, all their games, and I'm very grateful for that because I can't imagine like everyone in Japan playing and talking about metaphor, and I'm here like, hey, no metaphor. It would be a problem for me at least.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. What's your thoughts on what do you think? I mean, look, we don't know what's gonna happen because we keep hearing Persona 6 is gonna be announced next year. What's on your wish list for Persona 6? What do you hope that they bring?
On my wish list. Well, the big goal or the big thing that I want to see, and I don't know how they could implement this, but I think I'm growing a little tired of social links. So I think
Mhm.
they have to do something with them to reignite the flame for me. So the idea that I keep mentioning, which I think is really cool, but I don't know how they're going to make it work. They're ATLUS. They're going to find a way. The Persona team is so good. I think it's feasible, but it's for social links to the decisions that you take are good. They should impact the main story too.
Yeah.
Like it's not normal for me to, date, let's say Makoto and On and everything. And then I date Haru and it's all good. There's still all friends. There's no conflict. There's no nothing. It feels weird. I want them to be impact. If I do a bad move, if I take a wrong decision in during a social link, there should be consequences. I should notice that if I speak to a certain character in a dungeon, he's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, remember what you did," or blah blah blah. Just something a little small. That is my big thing that I want to
Mhm.
see. Obviously, everyone says for the story to be out of a high school setting. I
Ah,
also want
yeah,
to see
same,
that,
same.
but I think that this is the main thing that people want. Rumors are saying it's still gonna be in a high school setting, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm not in high school anymore. I moved on
Same.
from that that part of my life, so I'm ready for ATLUS to have an adult protagonist again, like they have in Metaphor or they had in Soul Hackers 2 and stuff like that. They in Persona 2, an adult cast. So it's feasible, but yeah.
I would agree with you. I think they should like bring it out of like the high school. The rumor is it's gonna be an art school. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one. I'm not sure how true that is. I mean, maybe they're just. I mean, do you feel that's kind of where they're heading, or do you think it's?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I've covered most of the reliable leak slash rumors that we've seen, and
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I don't want to get excited about these rumors if I'm not confident that they're
Mhm.
the truth, basically. So
Yeah.
I don't know what to think, but I am confident enough in the Persona team that whatever they do, I know it's gonna be good at this point. So I'm
Yeah.
that confident about it.
Do you feel they're gonna remake? I know you covered this, but like it's gonna be 30 years since the first Persona game came out. They have to do some sort of a remake, whether it's HD 2D or I mean you can't
Yeah.
I don't I mean what do you think they can do it or what's gonna happen with that? Because it's 30 years, dude. They
Yeah.
gotta or they should localize if Shin Megami Tensei if they should localize that.
If they localize, if they have to change a lot of stuff gameplay wise, though, Persona 1 and 2 as well. Hashino mentioned that there's definitely interest in going back to Persona 1 and 2. I think he mentioned that a month or two ago. I covered it in a video, and that got me excited because, but my bet is they want to do something about them because they know they're beloved and Persona is big, so they need Persona games to come out.
Yeah.
I think they don't know what they need to do with them. I
Hmm.
honestly think they have no idea. They're like, hey, we need to do something with them, but what should we do? How should we change them? Are we doing the HD2D thing? Are we changing some of the gameplay stuff? Are we changing the structure? Persona 1 and 2, they don't have what made Persona popular. They don't have the calendar system. They don't have social links. They don't have the one more combat system. So I think people underestimate the work that it would take to bring these games back. And
Yeah.
it won't please everyone,
No, and number
no matter
two
what
was
they do.
also banned as well because there's like two number twos. Like number two, they had like Hitler in there, and it was like, what? Like, why did they
Yeah.
ban it? That's hilarious. Like, why would you ban it? Is this just because like you guess maybe because of historical like sensitivity, maybe or
Oh, they're gonna come back at some point. I'm pretty sure about that. It's just a matter of how are they going to bring them back. I don't think we should expect them anytime soon. And
Mhm.
most people won't like what I am about to say, but I stand by that. I think the next remake or big remake. The next big remake or reimagining of an ATLUS game is definitely going to be Persona 4. I think it's
Yeah.
a given. I don't think Persona 4 Golden needs to be remade at all. I have the same opinion for Persona 3. I don't think Persona 3 needed to be remade. Uh, they did it. Huge success. Persona 4 would do even better. So I think it's going to happen for sure. And it's not going to take 5 years for us to see a Persona 4 remake.
No, it's gonna. I think it's just to make it tweak it a bit. But like, would you take out Marie or would you put her in there? Because honestly, like, it's like so divided. Like people say, like, yeah, Marie was okay, but there's some that were like, she didn't need to be there. Like, it didn't need. She didn't need to be there.
The answer didn't need to be there in Persona 3 either. They chose not to put it in there and they had to go back and put it in there as DLC. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. The one thing that I know is I'm expecting a remake along the lines of a reload, right? It's going to be Persona 4, very much same game, but it looks better, new tracks, more voice acting for the social links and stuff, but it's going to be Persona 4. I would expect it. I would expect them to remake Golden and not the original. So yes, to include Mary. I think that would be my prediction, but we'll see.
I love the voice actor for Adachi, like,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's because the Johnny Young Bosch is like they get the best voice actors. They get
Yep.
the best voice actors. Like I think number five, man, like I loved Akechi's voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like when you have to like I'm not gonna spoil anything because like, for those who haven't played, I don't want to be like you what the no, but like but number
It's a
four,
7-year-old game.
it's just okay.
It's crazy when you think about it. It's fine not to spoil it, but it's hard to think about this. Like Persona 5 is 7 years old.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's
It's
like
8 years old in Japan.
yeah, no, it's like okay. You know what? Screw it. I'll just say it anyways. When you fight Akechi, like, and the way like he says like persona when you fight him the first time, oh, it's like so like the actor really put that effort in there. Like
Yep.
Persona reminds me of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Shaman King to a
Mm.
degree. That's how I look at it. When people are like, "What's Persona?" I go, "You ever watch Shaman King or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?" They're like, "Yeah." It's like that, but more mature and much better. So, but Persona has me
Interesting.
reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure again. That's how crazy it is. But I love
Nice.
it, man. David, I really want to thank you for coming on. Obviously, you're a busy guy. You're doing such a great work. You got me into
Thank you.
gaming again, and you helped me get into the community. And hopefully, the community like is willing to speak with me and getting to know people. Guys, make sure to follow DavidCastRPGs because this guy's killing it. Like, if you need Atlas news, this guy is the reason why I got these two games. These two
Mhm.
games, Persona 4 Golden and then Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Thanks to his recommendations and reviews. He's passionate, charismatic. He's like a teacher, and he taught me about the importance of these games. So give him a follow. David, where can people reach you if they want to connect?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. So mostly on YouTube at DavidCastJRPGs. I do weekly content, mostly about Atlas, but I like to talk about other RPGs every now and then,
Mhm.
Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest, stuff like that. So if you're into that, you can check me out there or on Twitter. But Twitter's kind of a mess. You don't have to, but at DavidCast6917 on YouTube. Yeah, on Twitter. Sorry. Yep.
Perfect. Excellent. Guys, if you like my content, make sure to hit the Drew Experience. I'm on Instagram, YouTube. I'm on Twitter too, but it's a mess as well. I'm trying to stay off social media. I kind of trying
Yep.
to reestablish my relationship with social media because I like to game more. But hey, guys, the show's about to guest. Follow David. The guy's killing it. And if you really want to learn about JRPGs, make sure to subscribe to his channel, Drew Experience Approved. David, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Let me just, 1 second. Hold on. Let me just.